So far today, you'd have a case of the former PSP Katamorupis, who is now languishing in jail. Out of all the people who benefited, he's the only one in jail. How about others? Are you saying that he's the only man who benefited? How about others? And beyond that, we haven't seen much activity. We haven't seen much action. There are corruption cases in Botswana that literally would say that low-hanging fruits. That right now, it's been 9 months since we had a new government. Some of them should be right now. There should have been charges going on. There should have been prosecution right now, because some of them, the people who have amassed wealth that they can't even account to. Under DCEC, there is an act, I think it's called PICA, Proceeds of Criminal
Illegal,
Activities.
yeah.
Yes. So with the PICA, you can simply come to me and say, Setlhomo, you are driving a Range Rover. How did you acquire it? And then without an answer, simply say, majority of Botswana, if you do lifestyle audit, the lifestyle audit that would allow the government to collect all these looted wealth, so that that money can then, those things can be auctioned, or if it's money, then they can be invested in public hospitals, public schools, our roads. Today, if you drive around Gaborone, if someone doesn't know, when you tell them Gaborone is a capital city, they might not believe, because Gaborone doesn't look like a capital city. Much of it ended in the pockets of some few individuals, people who call them entrepreneurs, who are tenderpreneurs. So we need to try to have some sort of an accountability and ethics in place, so that we can take whatever that has been stolen back into the government coffers, move our country forward, so that when a country is functioning, those who are rich, security, because they would feel safe. They don't feel safe from what they have done to the nation, because how Botswana, banana ba Botswana ba hella ba sa bereki, ba abuse the drugs, ba dirang go baleka go feel the gap that is, the rage that is within themselves. Ba hella ba ta go thubela, because ku wena o tsuleng o bo itratela.
Welcome to Moving Humanity Forward podcast. My name is Cathy Malejane. I like to tell people that I'm the village chick with plenty chic, or the village girl from Ramotsa, aka Letebele Lelentsunyana Laham Masuri Ampela. But you know what? These days, I like to go by the moniker #CuriousCath, because I always have so very many questions. Now, my guest today is one whose time I believe I am not going to get enough of. I think he wears quite a number of hats. At one point, the entrepreneurial hat is one of them. He is, I believe, a certified criminologist. He is somebody very active in the social media space. You can almost want to think of him as an influencer, but very much a political activist. I'm talking about this gentleman who goes by the name Setlhomo Raymond Tshwanelang. Setlhomo, thank you very much for joining us on Moving Humanity Forward podcast.
Thank you so much for hosting me today. I'm really honored, Cathy.
Hey, I'm the one that's super honored and excited. I think you have done something that I never thought I would see happen in Botswana, and that was just take the activism to the streets. I think you see a lot of keyboard warriors, and so you actually took it to the streets. So I think let's start, Setlhomo, with you just telling us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, and
I do not know who is Setlhomo. What I am to what people think I am to them.
Okay.
To some people, I'm a sweet boy. To some, I'm a troublesome boy. But I'm not defined by what people say about me. I'm defined by what my principles are. Mm-hmm. I'm a man of truth. I'm a man of justice. I'm a man who seeks an equal society, a society that benefits all, regardless of class, regardless of name. That's really who Setlhomo is, beyond that which I have maybe acquired on this planet Earth. I mean, we are all born with a principle. We are all born with something that we hold dear to, or something that it's sparked by some sort of a thing or maybe a journey in this life. In terms of what I've acquired or what the world tend to associate me with is that I was born and bred in Botswana, in Seretse, and I grew up in Mahalape or both. Went through public schools up until the University of Botswana, where I completed my undergraduate degree in criminal justice. I went to further my studies in Ireland, where I did my master's in criminology and criminal justice, did my diploma in corporate fraud investigation. I also became a certified fraud examiner while I was there. I also started my PhD, then dropped in 2022. I also did post-diploma in fraud, in finance and fraud analytics. I did a number of certifications there. I've worked for a number of organizations there. I did my internship with Deloitte. I've worked as a consultant with Frogman. I've worked for other entities in Ireland. I've also currently, I'm consulting as an individual. I'm also an advocate whenever there is issues of crime, whenever there is issues of fraud, whenever there is an issue of corruption. I always want to make my voice known, or the voice of the
What
people.
led you to that?
I believe that there is so much secrecy, there is so much untruthfulness, there is so much of ambiguity, and many things are not said. We grew up with this idea that Botswana is the least corrupt country.
Yes, the shining example of democracy.
The beacon of hope and everything. But in reality is that corruption is very high in our country. Even the little things that we do not think it's corruption, it is there. It is unspoken, it's untold, it's unreported. And that has now collapsed the entire system, or it's almost collapsing the system. And that is where I come in. That right now, if you look at our schools, our hospitals, actually, our schools don't have chairs, they don't have tables. And if you look at the bigger scheme of things, you realize that someone had led to the collapse of that system. Either when they were to give a tender for chairs that would have maybe cost 3 million for maybe 5 schools or 2 schools, I don't know. Then they would have pocketed maybe 30 million, and they would have gotten away with substandard products, products that would not even last our kids. You see, this is why today when you look at private schools versus public schools, there is so much difference. I went to public school, and public schools are neglected, and not just neglected, but those who are tasked with managing the resources that are allocated there, they take that money to their pockets. That is why you go to the Ministry of Education today, basic education, you find that directors and managers, their kids, they don't go to public schools. How can they then make public schools a better place for our kids if they don't send their kids there? Of course, it's a matter of privilege, but if I were ever to be the president tomorrow, I'd say that any other civil servant from D scale going up, they are by law forced to take their kids to public schools and public hospitals. You'd see overnight that there would be transformation of those. The reason why people destroy public properties or neglect them or mismanage funds is that they are not a beneficiary of those services. But here is the thing also, when it comes to issues of public hospitals, people think they're insulated from the reality of life. Today, medical aid schemes in Botswana, they can cover you up to a certain point. But there come a point whereby the medical aid cannot cover you to go to that private hospital. And where do you go to? We saw that during COVID, where people were now transferred to, say, Gitumile Masira Hospital, to even Marina Hospital. Those who had medical aid, because the medical aid could not have them confined in those luxurious hospitals for over a month. It ran out. They went back to the very same place that they have neglected. And in Botswana, we have that thing whereby we believe that we are insulated. We don't want to fix the problem because we don't face that problem. And we always make sure that if someone is trying to change that, we make sure that they fail. We either give tenders to our friends, our families. There's so much that we want to benefit. I think one of the things that scares me and shocks me is that many people believe in self-enrichment than making the country a better place. Our country could have been one of the best countries to live, to work, to school, to invest, but there's so much corruption, there's so much fraud.
When did you discover that? I feel like saying, because we all grew up thinking shining example of democracy, beacon of hope. It's like being told the Christmas fairy or the Santa Claus is not real. When did you discover that?
There are studies and there are testimonies from people. I mean, as a criminologist, I've dealt extensively with studies on crime. I've also had the opportunity to travel to about 8 countries across Europe and the US. I've seen how data or statistics can be manipulated, and I've seen how in Botswana certain things were not said outright. I've seen how people became overnight millionaires and without track record, without any achievables, without any metrics, with failed projects. I come from villages that we once were surrounded by things like, we once had this vision of Morupulebi, we once had this vision of Palapeg Glass Project, we once had these many other ideas, ambitious projects by our government, but many of them were failed, and many of them, of course, we have investigative journalists in our country who reported them, but they were just write to newspaper, leave it there, and Botswana, they don't read. They don't like to read for themselves. So you'd find that there are, in any newspaper back in the day, it would have maybe 4 corruption related, but those will be buried there because people will be looking, oh, it's tabloid, it has this about women or men or marital, what. So now with social media, we believe that that's whereby we should share more, discuss more, and even take an action, report those things. And the other thing was also why maybe people did not discover is that when it comes to prosecution of corruption in Botswana, it's very, very low, slow, and non-existent. Even the DCEC, by virtue of DCEC, it was supposed like every other month or 3 or 4 months, you'd find that when you go on Botswana police page, they'd say that these are the crimes that were reported or recorded for this particular period. When you go on DCEC today and you ask them how many corruption cases were reported between this period and that period, they don't have them readily available. And even if you were to say, fine, out of maybe they would say 80 or 800 cases, how far with the investigations? How many had been completed and sent towards DPP for prosecution? They would never give you such statistics. How many moved from DPP to the courtrooms whereby they are prosecuted or litigated, and how far they are? They don't have such statistics readily available. Having statistics alone, it would sensitize the public to see that there is a problem. So many cases are reported to DCEC, but no action is ever done, or at least to even inform those who reported that, hey, you know what, we have tried to investigate these cases, there is no case, or this is how far we are. We believe that it's going to be a process, because you cannot investigate corruption overnight. It's a process. But unfortunately in Botswana, there is this element of secrecy, and behind this secrecy, there is a lot of untruthfulness. There is a lot of people who had reported to DCEC, sometimes will come to me and say, we reported that, and then DCEC went on to tell the people that we reported them. There was this lady who had reported some politician back in the day, and the DCEC went on to tell that person. They just saw the man come into that office because he was their employer, and it went so they even lost their employment there. It was so bad that they were even afraid of that. They feared for their lives because they don't protect sources. And this thing of, well, we have whistleblower protection, what, it's a mirage, it's not the truth. We don't even have mechanism to implement that. So it's just like a restraining order. It's something that exists only in an academic textbook. It's not there as in practicality, like it's practical.
It's not implemented.
It's more like today. We had a case at the University of Botswana. Some lady 2 months ago, She was working there. Some gentlemen went there, stabbed them, they died, and there was a restriction order. Who monitors when someone violated? It has to be you saying, oh, so and so has violated the proximity or 200 meters, but there is nothing like maybe trackers, there is nothing literally in place. There is also, when these things are issued, there is also no psychological evaluation, no psychological reports, nothing to say, but this man is likely to re-offend or is likely to pose a danger. We need to monitor them. There is nothing, or we need to protect this person. We need to put them in a shelter house. Not that they help. I mean, there was another lady also, I think she was an albino woman who ran to women's shelter, and the husband went there. He killed the lady there in front of everyone. And I think he's still going through the trial. So when you speak about the protection of whistleblowers, protection of victims of crime in Botswana, protection of everything, it does not exist. It only exists when you are a son of so and so, or you are so and so. Like during COVID, there was a time whereby one former minister, I think they were driving along this road, and murderers went on their car, they broke their cars, and I think they stole some phones.
Yeah.
For the very first time in our history,
yeah.
we saw police releasing CCTVs.
Video, yeah.
We saw then minister going into the national television. We saw them saying we are deploying the military, we are deploying the police at this and that and that. But if today you drive through the old BRS around 7, 8, people will likely smash your cars. They won't deploy the police there. They won't deploy the military there because you are just a nobody. You are just a number to them. You are just someone that they remember a year before the elections or 2 months before the elections. So when it comes to protection, for every other person, it doesn't matter who you are. If it's me today complaining or so and so complaining, they might listen to you or listen. So we believe in that justice in Botswana, it has to carry a name. We have a case that was popular some years ago of a gentleman called Nomoroka. He shot and killed a boy, and his defense was that it was a dog. He confused him to the dog. And nothing was ever done that you would expect. He was at some point the chairman of Vision 2036. We reward mediocrity. We reward criminals and thugs. We reward men of questionable characters. We don't reward honesty. We don't reward ethics. We don't reward integrity. We don't reward innovation. That is why many people who are successful in Botswana, they are not the smartest, but those who are poor, they are the smartest people who could really take this country forward. The people who today are holding some positions in society, they are not the smartest of the broom. It's simply because they knew someone, or their names knew someone, or for whatever reasons, they are not people who are competent to transform our country. Because when you speak about transformation, you don't just look at the leadership or the political leadership. You look at the administrative part. The administrative part in Botswana, it has failed, and that leads me to DCEC. DCEC as an institution, it needs to be reformed so that it can teach people about corruption. Beyond saying that people need to report, but what have we done? What is our milestone? What have we achieved? So far today, you'd have a case of the former PSP Khama, who is now languishing in jail. Out of all the people who benefited, he's the only one in jail. How about others? Are you saying that he's the only man who benefited? How about others? And beyond that, we haven't seen much activity. We haven't seen much action. There are corruption cases in Botswana that literally would say that low-hanging fruits. That right now, it's been 9 months since we had a new government. Some of them should be right now, they should have been charges going on. There should have been prosecution right now, because some of them are people who have amassed wealth that they can't even account to. Under DCEC, there is an act, I think it's called PICA, Proceeds of Criminal
Illegal,
Activities.
yeah.
Yes. So with the PICA, you can simply come to me and say, Setlhomo, you are driving a Range Rover, how did you acquire it? And then I keep without an answer. Simply say, otaros na itharabologa la tatawetsa ki ra ke tsa puso di ho tsena. Majority of Botswana, if you do lifestyle audit, the lifestyle audit that would allow the government to collect all these looted wealth so that that money can then, those things can be auctioned, or if it's money, then they can be invested in public hospitals, public schools, our roads. Today, if you drive around Gaborone, if someone doesn't know, when you tell them Gaborone is a capital city, they might not believe because Gaborone doesn't look like a capital city. Much of it ended in the pockets of some few individuals, people who call them entrepreneurs, who are tenderpreneurs. So we need to try to have some sort of an accountability and ethics in place so that we can take whatever that has been stolen back into the government coffers, move our country forward, so that when a country is functioning, libone, those who are rich, security, because they would feel safe. They don't feel safe from what they have done to the nation, because how tswela Botswana gore banana ba Botswana ba hela ba sa bereke ba abuse the drugs ba dirang go ba leka go fill the gap that is the rage that is within themselves ba hela ba ta go thubela because ko wena o tsuleng o bo itratela. Like now some people times they ask me, oh, we saw you walking around, or you're not afraid? I said, I'm not afraid of anything. I haven't stolen anything from anybody. My conscience is very clear and clean that even if someone was to harm me or kill me, I would die a happy man. My conviction and my principles and my conscience is clear that I stood for what was right. I advocated for what was right. But others, they don't have that conscience. Their conscience is guilty because they know that Marina has collapsed. They know that Lisirane Clinic has collapsed. They know that Mogodisane does not have functioning roads. They know that Mogodisane doesn't have street lights. They know that there are potholes that they were supposed to have led a project that would ensure that those are functioning. So they don't sleep well because they have these assets that they cannot account to those.
I need to pause you there. I knew that I'd run out of time. Let me give him the opportunity to speak more, and we'll definitely continue this conversation. But for now, I want to invite you to imagine a community where every single person, and I'm talking from teachers, students, as well as coaches and parents, as well as church members, all know how to respond when someone's heart stops. At Healthcare System Solutions, or HSS, we're making that vision a reality through effective community bystander CPR training programs, as well as cardiac emergency response plans, that is CERP for schools, workplaces, churches, as well as sports facilities. We empower everyday heroes to step in and save lives. Together, we're creating a powerful chain of survival beyond hospitals and clinics. And you know what? You can learn how you can help make your community safe from out-of-hospital medical emergencies. We're right back.
Correct. We are a healthcare program consultancy company with a deep understanding of the unique challenges facing healthcare systems in low and middle-income countries across sub-Saharan Africa. Our mission is quite simple. We identify critical gaps in healthcare delivery, and we design practical and sustainable programs to solve them. And it all boils down to our expertise and our hands-on experience in the global health space. And I deep believe that a healthcare system isn't just about clinics, hospitals, or governments. It includes everyone, from corporate organizations, business entities, community organizations, schools, families, and individuals. That is why our work spans from supporting national health departments or ministries of health to empowering communities with the tools and the knowledge they need to save lives and improve healthcare outcomes. Whether it's training healthcare providers to community members, or strengthening emergency response systems and developing life-saving programs, we build sustainable and impactful solutions. We are Healthcare System Solutions.
Welcome back. This is Moving Humanity Forward podcast. Continuing the conversation, Setlhomo, I want to find out your political activism. When did that start? And then also, I think one of the biggest issues that people will remember you for is the march that happened against CEDA. I'm going to ask you to just lay the foundation and just explain to us what that was all about. I know there are some cases that are still in litigation, so I mean, those you don't need to get into detail. But first, take us through just your background in political activism. Are you in any party? Do you belong to any party?
Thank you for that question, Cathy. Before I answer about parties and stuff, I want to take you through my journey. When I was in junior school in 2010, there was mother of all strike. The teachers were on strike and everything, or protest. I was in junior school then.
Where?
In Mahalape, beginning. I took part. I was one of those who were suspended, and I wrote my exams while coming from home, and then I went to senior school again. I joined part. I was part of those who were helping the teachers to spread their message. I was again suspended. I was now doing my Form 4 in Madiba Senior School. I was against the injustice that the government of then did. I felt that teachers needed to be paid, or civil servants needed to be paid better. So I was part of those. I was protesting with them, and that, I think, for some reason, planted a seed in me. When some of our teachers returned, they were, I think, unpaid for 2 months or 3 months. That anger that they carried, it made me to realize that there is a need to change the system that is in Botswana. That was when I think I was exposed to activism. I then went to the University of Botswana. My first year, I was fortunate to have met Ramotswaledi. I was fortunate to have met Reboko. One of the speeches that he gave at the University of Botswana Student Forum, I still remember part of it. It was one that made me realize what a man, what a journey, what a role model that we should all look up to. That's when I think I now identified myself with the UDC, but under then BMD. I later contested, or I joined the BMD UB cell group, and then I later contested for the election as the Secretary General of the UBSRC. Then I won. But before and after that, I was taking part in many protests outside the University of Botswana, possibly maybe building my profile, I don't know. When you speak of Setlhomo, there was a massive protest around the country involving some former ministers. I was part of it. When you speak of, there was a time in 2015 when you protested against water in Gaborone. We were always having water crisis. I was part of it. There was a time when we protested against unemployment in front of Parliament with then some who later became ministers. I was part of those who were even detained. So I've always believed more in activism, right from my university day, my junior school days, and up until my university days. My last months at the University of Botswana, I was part of a protest. Even though then I was no longer in the Student Representative Council, they came to my house and say, you know, you need to be part of this. Students still believe in you. I joined them. Little did I know that it will lead to my suspension. So we took part. Then our protest was at the University of Botswana. There was something called bookstore. So every semester or every academic year, they would put, then I think it was 2,000 on that. And you were only mandated to buy books there. So there was some sort of a monopoly that did not allow you to go and buy a cheaper book somewhere or a second-hand book from someone. So, and we could only buy maybe 2 to 3 books. And that was it. So they had this thing that we did not agree to. Then, among other issues, we protested. The university was closed for a week. The vice chancellor then, Thabo Thamane, resigned, and later we were slapped with suspension. And for me, I think maybe the other fella, I forgot who it was. We were, by the time when the suspension came into effect, I had already set for my final exams. So it meant that when it came, it was a week before my final results were released. And it was, I think, one of the most painful parts, because you suspend someone who is no longer in school. Only he wants the results. I then took the University of Botswana to court. The court said that the matter was not urgent, so therefore it had to be a normal application. By the time that normal application tried to move, my suspension had elapsed, but then I was now having relocated to the UK. So it meant that now I had to write to the university and say, can't you please release my certificate or my results? Because I know that I've passed. They released them, then I got my certificate, and then the matter had to be withdrawn because now I had gotten my certificate. So I was suspended while having completed schools. All they could do was just to sit on my results. So for a whole year, I had no degree having completed while my age mates were working. And that was the sacrifice that I paid for. Prior to that, I had sued the University of Botswana over the banning of politics because the University of Botswana had banned activism when I was still there. There is a case, Setlhomo versus UB. I dragged the UB to the court, and unfortunately, again, we lost because the matter, they said it wasn't urgent because our court systems are not liberal, they're very conservative. For them, when something is of agency, they mean that it has to be a matter of life and death. When agency is not like that, agency is what the situation, like if you wait, someone has been suspended while they have completed their degree, it means that for a whole year, their life stopped, their life ceased to exist because you are saying it's not urgent. So I suffered because of the incompetence of our criminal justice system. And but I'm not hurt because eventually, immediately after my results were released, I was able to win a scholarship. I did my master's in criminal justice, and then I continued to do well in Europe. But unfortunately, there has always been that thing that pulls me back to Botswana, whereby I feel like I have to make change where I come from. No matter how far I go, even there, I was still mad because for me, I felt like I've given a lot for this country, but this country never loved me, rejected me. But there is this thing, passion, that has always been burning inside me, that I want things that are to be done right. Actually, with our protest at the University of Botswana, the book allowance was eventually, now students receive it in their bank cards.
It was successful.
So the protest was very successful. I did not benefit from it. I did it for the love
By
of
the time
those who come, because I wasn't, even if I wasn't suspended, I was already on my way out. It wasn't something that I was doing for self-benefit. It was for others because it's something that I had always been against throughout my university life. I had always took a number of protests when I was there. So that's really my political party. A political party, it's your belief before the affiliation. The affiliation is that before I'm Setlhomo, I'm Tshwanelang, which is my surname, ke Setlhomo, then surname ya ka Tshwanelang. So le gone ka political movement, I believe that it has to be you first, your principle first, and then now the movement ahead of you, something that aligns with your values and virtues. You choose it with that one that shares the norms and the customs with you or with your principles. So meaning that I can exist without a political party. So I'm a member of UDC as of now, but I'm also an independent mind, such that there are things that I don't agree with them. There are things that I agree with them. We share mutual interest. And our mutual interest stemmed from the fact that I had always thought that I want to die having seen a change of government in my country, having seen, something new, a new chapter, a chapter that would open doors for every other Motswana without being known, because the system that was there, and that is still, the remnants of it are still there, that it benefits you on who you are, where you are from, who you are related to, and how they tend to benefit from you. So I had always thought that that system needed to be conquered. And even now, sometimes I feel like, I feel betrayed, or rather that the nation has been betrayed, because what we stood for as the UDC then was that immediately as the president take the oath, the next day, we remove the system, and we remove it to replace it.
Wait, when you say remove the system, who or what do you mean?
Oh, the system, who controls the system? If today the people who have failed the BDP or who had failed the country are still in charge today, who implement the administrative part, you need to remove them. Some of them
So you disagree with His Excellency President Boko saying he's not going to remove, people who are in those positions, your permanent secretaries and so forth?
I do not agree with him. And we did not vote for him, or rather the UDC for that. We voted for the UDC to remove these people. Even if it is meant to rotate them, it is still okay. Because these are the people who led to injustices and who continue with that injustice today. I do not agree with the notion of wounded healer. We are not up to healing. What are we being healed for? When our tormentors and our oppressors are still holding that, for there to be peace and reconciliation, you need to come and say, this is what I have done to so and so. I apologize. And if I have robbed them, this is what they can. Even the South Africans, after apartheid, they had what you call Truth and Reconciliation.
Yeah.
So Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it will allow people who have hurt others to come to the table and discuss whatever that they are not happy with and give back something, or something has to be done. Not for me to forgive someone who is still tormenting others, because the people who tormented others, they are still tormenting them still today, or the mechanisms are still there. So we need to, if you talk about DIS today, DIS has terrorized a lot of people. It's terrorized every other person. It's the monster that needs to be rehabilitated. It needs, some of them, including its director general, needs to go.
I need to pause you there. I will come back to this one. I think this is an important point, but I want us to go through CEDA because we saw a march, and even the days leading up to it, I think I saw that you weren't even in the country at the time, and I was like, I wonder if people are actually going to come and support this, because you had laid out what you believed were the facts. So maybe perhaps take us through those and just share the situation of what alerted you to what was going on. What investigations did you do, if you did any? Just take us through that.
Thank you so much for that, Cathy. I have long known that CEDA was corrupt.
How?
Some
How
years
did you
ago,
know?
when Sonny Serite was brought in, the brand ambassador, there were allegations, very strong ones, that CEDA was corrupt.
Immediately.
No, before that, actually, he gave them a lifespan, I think, of 5 to 7 years or 10 years. CEDA was going through, newspapers were writing left and right. Newspapers were writing about the CEO of CEDA. The Gazette, if you look them from 2015, 2016, they were still writing about CEDA. CEDA was going through that. There were rumors and there were things that we could see, that the facts that there were businesses that were stolen or proposals from other Botswana.
That one I remember seeing.
Yeah, and then they were given to employees or relatives of employees of CEDA. So there were those allegations going on. And people who, some of them are related to us, would say, we have submitted our application to CEDA, but CEDA turned us down. Then 6 months, 8 months later, we saw someone building the same project around that area. There is a lady, actually, I saw her at some place, I think a weekend ago, said that there's some place, I think 50 km from, or 30 km from Gaborone. They wanted a filling station. They had complied with everything, like to do an application for CEDA. It's so expensive emotionally, mentally, and financially, because to seek source quotations, this and that, to include even experts, it's a whole lot of money. So she has spent a lot of over 150,000 or 300,000 in the whole scheme of things. And then I think the reasoning that they gave to reject her application, it was absurd. And actually should have been the first woman who had a filling station in her own home village. They rejected her application on some baseless grounds. A year or two later, someone came. And when you look at it, was that, because the top management of CEDA felt like she was too young, she was a nobody to start that project. In Botswana, we believe that even if you go on CEDA beneficiaries, some of them who had benefited with what appear to be novel ideas, that they are either related to someone, either who was in the political cycles or within the CEDA management, or from the same certain families. And ordinary Motswana orling, nahile like hetsa ko university ya ba isa go kana linkong kwinki be ke nna ke ne ke la camera nyana ke itsela dinepe ha molong ha le ke sena o save. I approached CEDA kana ne ke simotsa ka leya, and then CEDA funded me absolutely nala. Only maybe 2 or 3 of the apparatus. The many people who benefited on CEDA, majority of them were either directors, having accumulated experience and finances. So a whole large amount of people that were supposed to benefit, they did not benefit from CEDA. When CEDA was created, it was meant for those who could not easily acquire loans from the commercial
coming
banks.
back to what you said, you saw the allegations of corruption. I mean, those were everywhere in the paper, even on radio. We saw those. So, what made you say 1 + 1 = CEDA is corrupt?
Now people were coming to me because I was always exposing a lot of rot among other institutions. They were overwhelming. Then after or around regime change, I now started to fire the shots. And actually, this thing it wouldn't have maybe led to the protest. I was writing to sensitize. So CEDA, having litigated against every other person, having felt like it was the god and everything and the alpha, they then sent me a cease and desist letter. And then I think I took it for a joke. I saw that. And then they proceeded now to go to court. They did not even serve me or anything. They just took a restriction order against me. And I think that now led to me now going, I wanted to do just because I wasn't in the country. I wanted to do a petition without being in the country and say, okay, so and so can deliver it. Now they forced me to leave Ireland to come here and to face them, and now to organize the people.
So what you're saying is all the information you had came from people either within CEDA or who had been rejected by CEDA.
Information came from those who work for CEDA now, those who used to work for CEDA, the victims themselves, Botswana.
Yeah.
Information came from and actually some information came from social media. Hotekana me business ena. Kia ga se mamang o berekela in CEDA. How check wa bona indeed ke no bilo na I market on Facebook. You go on SIPA. SIPA it's free for every Botswana to go into. I make a director, I make a shareholder. These are the facts. And then I started now building the case. I started now writing about CEDA.
So in terms of investigations, you did your own investigations to see gore kana ibile ka re fraud is your thing, it's your special talent. You really looked into it and you discovered that the smell was coming from something rotten.
Yes. When people share with me, I don't just believe their word. I don't buy into their word. I also try to fact check. I have to go on SIPA. I have to even Google. I have to go on people's social media. I have to even ask for pictures. I verify, and then I publish. Same way, unlike newspapers, of course, they would have to give someone the right of reply.
Yes.
I'm an activist. The truth speak for itself. Just like Julian Assange, he published what they receive that they believe is factual. They don't go and say, oh, the US government, we have this video showing that and that. No. That's not how activists are supposed to work. Or whistleblowers, they're not supposed to work like that.
So you did that, and are you happy so far with how things have turned out? How have things turned out? What can you update us on that case?
CEDA sued me. The first Botswana to be sued by CEDA for calling them what they are, that they are corrupt, and they lost. They
lost the case?
They
so
lost the
it's
case.
Over, it's closed?
Closed, they're done.
They lost with cost?
They lost with cost, and they settled cost, I think, 2 months ago. When they lost, a few months later, our petition was successful. A forensic audit was instituted that covers CEDA. Among other 30 entities or 29 entities, was that 30.
You're talking about the one that was launched recently?
Yeah, because they now had to
president.
incorporate CEDA. It was launched beginning of the year. And then the CEO of CEDA, Thamane, has been on suspension since January or February this year. The chair of the CEDA had to resign, and many others had to fall. And right now, I think as of about a month ago, the caretaker for CEDA has been appointed, CEO of CEDA. There has been so much of developments around that. And not only that, there was another Botswana who had to sue CEDA because actually the matter was dragging for ages. And after our case, now it had a breakthrough. He was awarded that CEDA had stolen his idea and that it was aware. And many people came forward with stories. Some of their applications had to be now reassessed. Some of them had been able to get their loans.
Wow.
Now CEDA no longer bully by young Botswana, because CEDA, what it used to do, it would give us, both of us, loans depending on who is who. And then I default on my loan. They would not go after me. They would go after you because you are an ordinary Botswana. Many people lost their assets because they were ordinary Botswana. Some people who were affected, you know what, it was painful. There was a lady who came during our protest. Her business almost collapsed because of COVID, and she wanted a better payment plan, reassessment. CEDA did not take for it. They went after her properties, and then guess who, after it was auctioned, it was bought by one of the CEDA board members, the property. So literally it was insider dealing. They realized that so-and-so is struggling, and then my brother can buy this property from this person or these things. So literally they were targeting other Botswana so that they can take the assets. In one incident, one of the share person after the auction, I think they were able to pay after 6 or 8 months the property, which was against even the auction rules and regulations. So literally their corruption was, it was nauseating. And one thing that was even so bizarre was that some people, politicians who took loans from CEDA, their loans were written off, or they were never followed or tormented by
payment.
CEDA as an ordinary Botswana. So it benefited kana ka gore ke minister then kana ke former minister then, while ordinary Botswana bone ne go tegate ba tsae chema. What can you do ka chema? What's the part about 50,000? Most of Botswana ne ba tsama 10,000, 15,000, 5,000. That is why one thing that I want to thank the new government was that it made a promise. Harasana go tsa puso in his tone, DGB, we are going to cancel this chema thing. He did that. He cancelled it, and then by its to grant it, because ene le go tshamikisa ngwana Motswana gore ngwana Motswana ro bata 50,000 le gone 50,000 how ka dira business unless we inject an existing business. So mme Botswana ba bangwe ba ne ba neelwa bo 50 million bo 5 million, and then project di faila go sena mathata.
So how far with, I think it was Thabo Thamane who was suing you. I believe Sonny Serite was also suing you. Are you able to just update us on what's going on? Are the cases ongoing?
Yes, thank you so much for that. Actually, during the CEDA, because ne ba tsela gore ke sethara sa mo rula go ipagolelwa kana mmilo, many lawsuits came or letter of demands. I had former Her Excellency or former minister and former diplomat Malesu Docas. She sent me cease and desist or something, or letter of demand, and the other was Sonny Serite. He demanded, I think, I'm not sure if it's 10 million pula or 20 million pula, somewhere there about, or 40 million, I forgot the amount. It was such a ridiculous amount anyway. And the other one, those two, they did not lead to litigation yet, or they did not file, or they haven't yet served me. If they have filed, I don't know. And then there was Thabo Thamane, and then there was Rakgare. The Chiliboy one, it was that Arekem Steady Top. The matter is still before the court. Thamane and then Arekem Senzelina because of that defamation of character. So right now I think I'm left with 2 cases, which I think they are winnable.
Wait, so the 2 cases that you're left with are Chiliboy and
Thamane.
So where's Sonny Serite? Where's Mama Kato?
They haven't filed or they haven't served me.
So you received the letter of cease and desist?
Demand letter. Demand ya gore ore sentse lina ntsha sena o re neela bokana.
Okay.
Ebe ke tsaya be ke re a ba tswelele ka go ntshekisa so that le nna ke te ke kgone ke ntshe nnete e ke dumelang mo go yone. Ha ke re kana ga gore ha motho, if you want 40 million, the court would not just wake up to award that. You need to justify. If also you say that your character has been defamed, you need to show us what character that you say it has been defamed.
You sound very confident that
because
winnable.
One thing is that I always stick to my facts.
Yeah.
And 2, when it comes to, because with Rakgare's litigation, is that it is well within my right of speech. He is a politician, I'm an activist. So it was during the time he had the top. Some of the things that I said are truthful, that I'll demonstrate to the courts.
So you stick by what you said? I
stick by what I said as an activist. It is upon the court to maybe litigate over it and tell me because what he's asking for, I don't think any competent court would grant him There are many things that he has said about the Rebok or that he has said about any other politician. Why would he then say those but nna ga ke le tollo go di bua? What immunity ya nang le yone le gore nna ga ke na yone? Or any other politician for that matter, or any other activist. So tota hela ne ke dumela gore mo go Botswana ha ona le madi. The criminal justice system is not about seeking justice. He's not seeking justice. It's that oh, I'm gonna drain him financially because then he was a minister, of course. Because the litigation hela ka yone la ha e bala o taba o tshega bitsa gore motho ona nare o dirang. Even the amount that he is asking for ga make sense. Mme le ga le ke dumela gore le khota le ta dumelana le nna in the end o ta se ke a tswelle ka gore nna ne ke politika kana go yo ke go tswala ntse ke politika.
Wait, so you're saying the other ones never actually took, so Sonny Serite didn't take it forward?
As far as I remember, I have never seen anything, not even my lawyer hasn't.
Have you ever interacted with him? Have you ever interacted with Memakat? Any of the people that you've written or spoken about? Did you ever try and meet up with them or confront them before you posted these things?
Sonny Serite, I have known him. I looked up to him. I still do. I have met him, I think, 2023 or 2022. Somewhere I was going to Kgalagadi and he was still going through this. That was our brief moment. During the CEDA, we have never interacted. His, I think, undoing was that when I published those facts, he came gun blazing, saying that what does he think he is? Like he came with that arrogance that do you know who I am? That he used that some words that were undermining me when I was civil. So that alone led me during the process or after. So I feel we never had that moment. I remember she went to some podcast where she was saying a lot of things about me. Podcast with one of the gentlemen, an artist. So she said he can go against CEDA, like demeaning things, but I brought CEDA down because it's never about the power or the might or the age or anything. It's about what you believe in. Now I still believe even today, even if dumela moselong, Botswana le bona ba dumela mo go sone, I do not mind to sacrifice everything to stand for it, as long as it's what Botswana believe in.
So you're happy right now with the progress and what has happened, CEDA?
I'm so content. I sleep well knowing that I took a stand that benefited Botswana. Nna ga ke benefit. Gona nna gampe ko my business, one of it, because I love small businesses. I can't seek loan from CEDA because ke tshaba gore ga ke a go etsa Motswana gore we neela ka gore ke Setlhomo kana ba bata go mo didimatsa. So ke re that's the sacrifice that comes with activism. At least if Botswana ba benefit, I'm happy. Gore ha Motswana mongwe a benefita go sa twe ke Setlhomo ke so ke se itumelelang. So I'm happy gore Botswana bangwe they are doing well, and I just kopana ba tell, hey brother, we were with you there, my business here, come and see my business. Just that na ha ke motho ke batang gore be ke a go take advantage or to come to my stall, come to my restaurant.
So if you don't want to take advantage,
I believe that there has to be sacrifice. I have to sacrifice for the greater good.
So how are you gonna? You need to eat.
I think I'll venture into a different way of eating, not through eating. Motswana mo ke dumela gore go je ba bangwe mo go ene. E seng gore mo Botswana gona le go ja ka maina. Where come to your restaurant because ke Setlhomo ke ta go togela ka bila 2000 pula ke tsa mahale. No. I believe that there are kids who needs that. I'm a man no longer ga ke tshabile kuba, ga ke tshabile go thatswa koloi. Like I can do something for myself, not relying on handouts from other people. So ke dumela gona gore there has to be a price for everything. Activism come with a price.
I think you've paid quite a heavy price for activism, but we'll talk a little bit about that. And I want us to talk a little bit about the state of the nation. I think you've touched on what you wish was happening, but we'll speak more about this in just a bit. This is Moving Humanity Forward podcast. That's how you find us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, as well as on TikTok. But on Facebook, you type MHF podcast. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Lone, a wellness administrator at Key Wellness. Now let's do 5 questions in 60 seconds. I coordinate everything behind the curtains, from wellness days to therapist support. Ha go suta, know that I'm likely behind it. It's the details, the venues, the flow, let's on bui. But the goal is only one, to ensure that our customers have a safe environment. I think that would be structure. Wellness work needs structure. So I ensure that our programs run like clockwork so that the healing can happen without any stress. Dynamic. Everyone loves dynamic. We offer financial advisory, psychosocial support, debt rehabilitation and management, as well as change management accompanied with restructuring support. So I get to see how we impact the lives of Botswana across the country. My word would be transformational, because what we do here, it really shifts and moves people.
Welcome back. This is the final bit of this conversation, and I know time is just going to run. So let's get straight into it, Setlhomo. There's something I would like you to get into detail about, because we hosted Sonny Serite recently, and one of the issues that I'd like you to get into detail has to do with, I want to give an example of Roko Mama. That was something that you brought up, and according to Sonny, the issue here is he had registered the name to say he wanted to do the franchise, but then he never got into the business. Hence, it was registered and it just kind of is a white elephant. Nothing was done with it. And also with his company, the safari company, I think what, if I recall correctly, he said was there were no other Botswana who had wanted to put this, or who had put this proposal forward. And I think one of the other issues I asked was just, so how come you never marketed it? And he was saying something similar to what you're saying, but I didn't want to, have it look messy type of thing. So I believe that what you laid on social media was very much the opposite of what he clarified for us. I don't know if you're able to speak to those.
Thank you for that. I'll start with the safari, and I would quote him. It is from a social media post, and it's still there if he did not remove it, but it's still also on my timeline because I took a screenshot. In May 30th, 2024, he wrote on his timeline, not on my timeline, he wrote something, and then he said, introducing Safari Campus, your premier 4x4 vehicle rental company in Botswana, and one of CEDA's clients. I want you to note that. And one of CEDA's clients, that company, it means that it was financed by CEDA while he was their brand ambassador. You go on CEDA, you find that is under the proprietorship of Elephant Power Proprietary Limited. And who is the director? It's Mr. Serite. And when was the company formed? It was registered in June 2021. Where was he in June 2021? He was the brand ambassador of CEDA. Literally, he was already an agent of CEDA. He fell under this term of agent employee, someone with access to confidential information within CEDA system. He was not a stranger to CEDA.
But you see, that's part of what he was saying. Look, I didn't have access to those things. I was just the brand ambassador. And I mean, me applying for a loan, why should I be denied to apply the loan? I think what he then said was CEDA never used his services. So CEDA never would rent his cars. And also, like in his brand ambassadorship, he never advertised the business to say, oh, welcome to this business, which he used to, I mean, that's what he was doing, right?
You see, the mere fact that he introduced it on his timeline, I subscribed to him, or many people subscribed to him during that time as the brand ambassador. It meant that his page was more like commercialized by CEDA. It was more or less the property of CEDA at that moment. He was the brand ambassador. So anything that he shared within that, because they paid him to travel, they paid him to market their clientele, or publicize their activities. By virtue of him saying, I'm introducing this and that and that, the mileage that he received, that these are the products of CEDA, he was literally marketing CEDA, showing us that, wow, they even have this. And you know what was the funniest part? He did not say that, I'm introducing my company, which has been sponsored by CEDA. No, he made it as if it's a continuation of everything that he has been doing about giving mileage to what CEDA has achieved, without ownership, without saying that this is my company, until I brought it to the attention of the public that this is his company. He only acknowledged after the fact. He never said that, guys, come and utilize CEDA, because CEDA has funded me. Why did he not say that before everything? Why did he not? Because every other company, oh, welcome, the owner of this, or the managing director. But when it came to that company, he never said that this is my company, guys. I've also benefited. And the funniest part is that since he became the brand ambassador, he had this business acumen whereby you go on SIPA, you'd find about 5 or 6 companies, a dozen of companies within that time frame when he was the brand ambassador. All of a sudden, he is now, how is he able to balance between that? And where does the line end? Anyone who is a contractor or an agent of anything, he has access to that information. He even acknowledged on his Facebook post at some point that since you guys are supporting this little boy, I cannot tell like because the application what. He cannot at any point claim or deny or deny that he did not have access to privileged information as the brand ambassador. As the brand ambassador today, how where is my application? Whenever you go, you need to tell me how far you with the application. You need to even take me through the steps. He had access to that, not just access, he had access to the CEO of CEDA, meaning that if he is to apply for a loan, they won't just deny him because he's one of their own. They would, by virtue of that, they might even be biased towards him. They might even deny him that loan, or they might grant him that loan even when he's not deserving, or when he's least deserving. And there was also another of Rokomamas. When you look at Rokomamas, there are 2 Rokomamas. Rokomamas, one that he started with someone else, and that someone else, that company, it was never deregistered. It was still there. I'm not sure by now. That person also went now to have Rokomama's Toro. It's more like they started Setlhomo together, and then maybe knowing that he already had another loan, he could not continue maybe with that pursuit. Or he started another one, Setlhomo Tshwanelang, Rokomama's Toro. And now he's no longer there as the shareholder, the director, but that other person that they started with, you see that someone that they already had a business relationship, he cannot therefore divorce himself from Setlhomo Tshwanelang because they already had Setlhomo before.
Let me ask you this. Why don't you believe this? Because I think we raised this, and one of the things he said was, chances of you getting an idea are much higher because you are able to identify gaps because again so that was sort of the reasoning behind some of these things. And also even with Rokomama, it was, oh, I had this concept, I had this idea, clearly franchises are pretty expensive, I realized I couldn't do it.
You know why I don't want to buy into that? When it comes to business fronting, how is it what's a loan? Bona re bana tse tsere nga sa ka tsaya be kiskihetsele gore la gore ke ngwana ka ga o iso tse loan ga se gore re hitise ka wena. That is why nane kerile I needed him to litigate so that I can prove indeed that now this gentleman o khone go benefit from that company, or that company has a relationship with, and one that is still continuing because basimolotse boti gore for example that gentleman by that time he had no record of any business that would say now this man is successful to pull that alone. Or why anahela motogala. 2, SIPA did issue something after he denied everything that the company. It issued a note on their timeline saying that any business that high functioning ka tshwanelo gare e be ntshiwa mo SIPA go not even be go tsa 24 hours, and he never saw a need to do that, to remove that. So it made it existing gone go mo le gape when he started he never even said ba sorry, I'm no longer part of that. Another one that I started kiena, and they basically whatever reasons or personal reasons, he never sought to clarify that. So that is why now I would have loved for him to perhaps maybe litigate so that these facts can come out. Now I was not afraid of him litigating, and I'm still not afraid of him. He did not benefit. And now safari. There was a gentleman, actually, there is a case called DCEC. You know, company and safari. Respects. He did show me everything, including what he reported, the case number DCEC. Or indeed the business was stolen from him.
A proposal
before that, and it was denied. It's a everything that met him, but it's a matter that he has since reported to DCEC, and it validated that indeed this business. Of course, for me, it was more like the reason why maybe I don't want to talk much about it is that business is not a novel business. You cannot say that I'm the only person in the world who has that. Bottled water.
Yeah.
It's no longer a novel idea. True. So it has always been there, run by these South African ones, the safari cars that are there, but maybe not in that concept. It's not a novel idea. Mehela gona le Botswana yo a dumelang gore o mo itsetse e leng gore kganya ya go go DCEC ga kitse gona gore etsa mahakae.
Okay, so let's move on and talk about something else that I think I'm probably going to need to engage you on another platform, but I want us to pass through it because you advocated quite loudly about it, and that has to do with the lifting of the import ban on vegetables. So I just want to know your thoughts on that, because I don't know, I think for me, and maybe let me admit some bias to say, I don't understand why we want to be fed by another country. That doesn't add up to me. But you know, one of the reasons you put forward, everything is so expensive. But I don't know, now with the pula being devalued, I don't know. What's your take on it? What are your thoughts?
First of all, I want to acknowledge a gentleman, His Honor, the Vice President, Ndaba Hawalatli. He has touched this issue. Ibile a bua ka Setswana, asa heat. A bua gore le hatsi, gore le be le tswalla sengwe. Le tshwanetse a bo le na le bokgoni jwa go ijesa. Le gape ha o tswalla, ibile he used the term bad economics, meaning that you cannot close something and then yet on the other hand seek to trade with others. First and foremost, what should have been done before the vegetable ban was to determine what is a tomato. What defines a tomato mo Botswana? What size? What color does it make that tomato? Do we have quality control mo Botswana? Do we have a definition of what determine a ripe tomato? We don't have such things. We don't have anything that you can say at this point, because we don't have that quality control. Bob says every week bata it's great in, but this one it does not meet the spec. How we weigh kana we itseng ha sa tseniana gora gore ke size bokana. No, we don't have such freestyle.
We've been speaking about that for a long time. That's something that farmers in Botswana have been saying. We need this to happen.
Yes, if you need that to happen, then you cannot before korelento how ka tsanto hela bo irulela ndo isimola ko foundation bebe tswela etsana mo roofing mo window level mo window level yalo. So what we needed to do was to have, even if it's a temporary institution, a temporary committee, that one would regulate the prices, regulate the quality, deal with complaints. So
because you spoke about this, say for example with the whistleblower protection, right, to say we have these things, then in terms of implementation and enforcement, it always becomes another story. So who would you be thinking would do that? Would that be Ministry of Agriculture? Like, who in your mind would do that? Would that be Bob's? Who? Because one of the other issues that comes up time and again is the issue of the fact that in Botswana, our retail stores are mostly not owned here or not originating from here. So the issue that has come up, and I've seen this, I've actually hosted conversations on radio about this, has to do with people saying, we have these things, but first of all, these people don't want to buy from us because they're getting the supply from another country. It's cheaper. They do things in bulk. They have economies of scale. So we can never compete with those people. So how then would you expect a Botswana, a farmer, to ever stand on a footing without some sort of, I don't know, ruhurulela before building happening?
It's a very tricky and yet interesting one. If today you speak of policies in Botswana, they are not owned by Botswana, which is a fact, is that the past regime, it had politicians who masqueraded as businessmen, who had shares in some of these retail outlets. We had civil servants who are doing business, who are also farmers, who are supposed to advocate for these policies. So before the ban, they went around the country buying land at a very reasonable price, stealing land literally from farmers, genuine farmers, because most of them are not farmers, they're not businessmen. So they bought these things for a song, then went on to do these things, and then when they were ready, they announced the ban. They were ready to supply for a week, not for a month. And that came, actually it led to an inflation when it came to vegetables. Botswana, when I was in UB, I used to buy my fresh around UB, Bukana, my fresh gampieno.
15
pula,
a tiny packet.
That's we paid hefty.
So then instead of lifting the ban, why not regulate?
Because the regulation in Botswana is complex in the sense that Botswana is a free market economy. I cannot do something and then you set the price for me. The price ya government ke ya bogobe ba mabele kana le sukiri le petrol ke tsone tse eleng gore ya di control. So what could have happened was that those vegetables le tsone nka bo di tsenne under that scheme ya gore regulated the price gore tomato ke bokana, and then be go nna le subsidy gore this subsidy it goes to who and when, so that the subsidies kana subsidy ya Botswana ra dira hela be tsa ke batho ba sa ba benefiting, so it need to be targeted gore no wena ra go lebellana ebile ra go tsena le re checka le gore tax ya go e ntse yang re tsena di bank record tsa gore ba ta go bena gore amme you are the rightful candidate ena gore ka go hide subversion ena, so that o kgona o compete o kgona o rekise botoka. Gampieno ana vegetables are so expensive in our country, the quality is also questionable, worse than where I come from. Actually mo Botswana, hey kore dijo tse ke di rekang ko mahatseng madi a teng ke ka bo nga gore ka re di ka njesa kgwedi tse pedi kwano dijo di a tura, and it dirwa ka bomo because some people have hiked the prices to benefit. Kore Motswana gampe ene hela Motswana ene ka boena ha dira kgwebo o batla o dira profit ya la isimolola ga itse mo go teng le bakalelele. So this thing ya bone ya vegetable ban, it was a rip off for an ordinary Motswana. It benefited a few people, a few kore ba eleng gore policy ga re benefitela hatsi e se ka benefit a handful few. Batswana ba balwa ke di vegetable. And
do you think now that situation has changed now that it's been lifted?
The unfortunate part is that once you lift something, the price ya mo Botswana ha ile go dimo hanki ya kwa tase. La ka lebella di kombi during COVID di petrol di ya kwa godimo ebe di ba di hokotsega ga di ya kwa tase. When the prices goes up in Botswana, because you don't regulate prices, they go up.
But let me ask you this, because you said, okay, my party is first my beliefs, but I do affiliate with the UDC. And I want to come back to that to say it's 9 months into power. And you've already mentioned that, if things went the way you wanted, there would have been a clean sweep. So the administrative, especially people in power, would be removed. I want to understand in terms of what is currently going on if you are in alignment with the UDC and all of the things we've been speaking about, and these things that we could be doing something about, we've got a new government in power, shouldn't that be some of the things that's going on? And I want to close speaking a little bit about the forensic audit.
Yes, I think the forensic audit was a good start. But before I dwell much onto it, is that we had expected a lot of things within a short space of time. You know, because the time is essence.
And we were promised a lot. I mean, that was the promise. It's not just the expectation.
Yeah, actually, we
the
did
promise.
actually have timelines. Actually, the allowances and everything. But one thing that I do sympathize with UDC is that there is currently the economy is not functioning. There is no money. The diamonds are requisite. That may have, however, stalled some of the manifesto that we promised to the people. But there are things that we should not negotiate about. There are things that today people who have lost their jobs, people who are terrorized by the DIS, who are terrorized by BURS, we need to see heads rolling. We need to see people being held accountable. We need not to just wait for the forensic audit. We need to have those men, some of them suspended, just like Thamane has been suspended. We need to have them investigated. We need some sort of reconciliation, truth and reconciliation, because the forensic audit won't solve every other issue. There are issues that are personal to us. The reason why we marched, the reason why we removed the BDP was that not just because politicians did us something, but the administrative part has persecuted many things. Many people have lost their income, have lost their land. And the people who stole that land are still working at the land board. How the land board as in the boards? In our Nana 2023, and this is very personal to me. There are young people who graduated, who had both Form 5, both diploma, both degree, but never applied at the boards. In our how to all of us interview, can assist by interview. If we got some memo to go to house, nya bao ba segeleng go thoko go tsa thwana majelo ke di top heads so tsa 2019 ba ba tsengwa ba eleng gore ba ngwane le master 7 ke sare ke a banyatsa, but people who are illiterate, who can't even read and write, people who can't even advocate for land gore gonne gampe kwana nka bo land ya mo Botswana e tshwana sipa gampe kwa batla sheka company ya ga ifuma wisdom ke ga mang ke a tsena land mo Botswana nka bampe ke khona type of plot for.
Isn't that the case? I was given the impression that there's actually a system.
We don't have system of land. We don't actually, if it had
the
that
land audit that was supposedly happening where everybody was being urged to register their
the files are still manual. Actually, how about the change of land mo Botswana? That is it's adding because it's manual. See, director it's at 24 to 48 hours. That is because many of their things are manual systems. Last week, actually, Ramokhare, whom I so dearly respect, brought something. The bill, I think it was around audit, land audit. Unfortunately, it's one of the things that we need because mobile are not about owner land, motuhalwana owner 100 plots. So one of the things that we had expected was the UDC to focus on those bread and butter issues. We are not saying UDC should appoint me as the permanent secretary. I don't have experience of that. I don't even have the number of years. Baba nan experience baba nan le bothale jwa gore ba ka nna bone bo permanent secretary ba ka nna di director ba ka nketela pele ba ka hetola le hatsela rona. How do you expect the people who spend their whole entire career opposing everything that the UDC had always advocated for to suddenly implement that? They're going to fail the UDC. But ba eleng gore ga ba tlhaloganye ka manane wa UDC ba mo mebileng today. UDC gampe ko era Botswana ere ga bana go appointwa ka gore ke ma UDC hell. Rona when we voted in October, there are some people who today are members of council, members of parliament. By long or how about parliament and council, or they put our battle than a to batopelwang. Never talk my UDC, but now how what rara my UDC by hero. Bakona by tell Hatsel Pilatu the merit and what Korean who small who do and mirror Ababulio because some of us.
So you're saying people should be put into those positions based on party affiliation?
They should be open for every other Botswana. But one of the things that we need to look at first, because most of them are appointments.
But wait, don't you, I mean, I understand the logic of we can't just remove everyone. It would be opening government up to litigation and, having to pay out contracts. Isn't that a whole lot of money?
Some of those people are political appointees. One, they serve at the pleasure of the president. 2,
So they can be removed at
some
the
of them,
the president.
let me go in detail. 2, some of them, they don't have even skills and academic qualifications. Some of them have 4 degrees who are in those positions. Some of them, their performance is low. So they are actually, Mem Madao has explained how to remove this. She's a former judge, she's a former minister. Experience, performance, then you remove them on those bases. Because most of them, you know, it's been 9 months. Transport ya Botswana ga function. Everyday transport is down. Banana ba fola go renew license. Mme go na le di director, go na le di permanent secretary, go na le mathali o the gone kwana. A ba ta nthauri for so long. None has ever thought of coming up with a better system for transport. Implement that. That is because those people, they are dunderheads. They are not smart. They are not intelligent. They are not people who are competent to be there. That alone, na hajis kiberekela la government. Ona na ke berekata gona le mo teng KPI. Gona le mo teng the metrics. How perform ya ka mna ra go ntsha ka moso gore kana you fail to meet the quota. You are not performing. So why re sa bantse ba why sa take performance management system mo ra government so that re ntsha Batswana re tsenye ma UDC re tsenye banana ba ngo ba semba UDC because nana re thopela gore batho ba le ba tsene. You know what, one thing that is why nna ke dumela gore ma UDC ba tsengwe. I've applied for over 15 jobs in Botswana since 2018. I've never at any point been called for an interview in Botswana. I've never received an acknowledgement of my application. Nyamere boni how successful. More government me ha ke apply actually to the government of Ireland. I've been called for an interview there. Some I've passed, some I rejected the offer, and even the private sector and better salaries, same jobs. Because I believe, you know why? Because it's in UDC. And actually, one of them.
You believe that?
No. One of them actually.
So you mean I didn't get that job because I wasn't holding a card?
Membership meant everything. How what up? No, your advantage. There are people who control the system that I can today mention thousands and thousands of them. The qualifications are mine ba advance you kana motho ona ke mongwaro na ke democrat. Now I've never been given that opportunity. Ke blacklist and I'm not the only one. There are many people.
But then if you are acknowledging that that's not a fair system, why do you want that to happen?
No. To tilt it right now on open tendering. Kana tendering is corrupt. Direct procurement.
But then instead of doing that, shouldn't he have just fixed the tendering process?
It will be
because direct tendering, also not direct procurement, now leads the door open to 662 million. That kind of doesn't make sense.
There would never be a perfect system. You may have sometimes to balance that the ecosystem. You need to take radical decisions. You need to another gentleman who is serving under the government. I would mention him, everyone, it has been published about him. He was pro-BDP member. Why ena khona go tsena mme gona le ma UDC bogote bana ha bana go tsena ena o na leng sena gore ma UDC ga bana naso.
But then isn't that a good thing that he's in because it's showing gore we are not only going to be biased.
Inclusive, it's an inclusive government. Ya no ma UDC bona why ba sa tsene ba bang ba ileng gore they told with the movement, they have the degrees, they have the experiences. Why bona ba sa tsenngwe? Why gona na mpe gore khona gore re bana mo dikganye bogote the minister o edile someone wa relative mo di boding tsa gago bogote ma UDC ba bangwe bone ga ba tshwanelwe ke go etela le hatsepele. So that is why now I feel like if the UDC does not fix some of these things, in 2029, the UDC will be removed from power. Not by Botswana, but my UDC government. Masisi was not removed from power by Botswana. Ona remove ya ke madom korag. Baba ne mbala pile ka tshenyezo setšhaba ya gago ba ne mbala pile ka gore he lacked fairness, he was a dictator, he was a man who spoke long but did little. Gampieno ana mo UDC 9 months. UDC speak more. But ha gota di result, gota di action. Ba swana ga ba di bone. Le nna ke le mo UDC, ke batla go bona ministers he did this and that be ke mo galaletse ke my minister. Yeah, that's the man that I voted for. Iseng gore ba ta go mpolella ka di promise. A leader who is in the ruling party should not be making lots and lots of promises. He should be making more actions. Good actions should speak. Opposition to an essence in yard. Halen Topaki Agalatil. Opposition as an center. Barishu. Kilagalatela in 6 months. Yaho Helen this court. Romento Aronagarabu the timeline. How we got the timeline? Wow, to our Barishu hadn't it like 6 months. No padile in Charlenja extend. Hampiano and a banana bale like a 2.5 by university. nkabo nahane ke le nkabo itota ibile senta utona ka ta utona ta ke bata dio tse dintsi mo go ene nkabo the minister le mo parliamente kana ma parliamente ba ya go kgaolong la hele ko University of Botswana ba bitse bana ba ithuti re ne le retse re tale neela 2.5 ka November ba ga itse re ithela dipata di senang re eletsa gore gongwe le re 6 months ha economy ka nna botoka re tale la thella 200 kana 300 kana sengwenyana se re se boneng but how tsaya o neela ba brigade madi o tsaya ba tsadi ba golo ba neela madi o tsaya bane le bane o ba neela ba bangwe bo sa banele o bo bile o re ga gona madi mo Motswane mo mongwe le mongwe o dumela gore mme ga o bue nnete gore gona le ba prioritizing le ba sa ba prioritizing. So most of the UDC did not have votes among the elders. The elders always believed in the BDP because they're conservative. Young people brought in the UDC, and therefore young people must be prioritized because they are not the future of tomorrow. They are not the leaders of tomorrow. They are leaders of now. So therefore we need to prioritize them. We need to make sure that boto ka ile sengwe re ba regulate le rente because kana rente ya tura gampeko allowance ya ba etsang gampeko ne ke etsa before COVID, things went up. How do you expect them to survive? Some of them right now they're abusing drugs and alcohols. Some of them they're into prostitution. They're in everything. So therefore, re tshwanetse ra make sure gore botoka le menyana le re ba le neela le botoka le rona re tshwanetse ra supa gone gore government ga ana madi. What our actions as the UDC, as the ruling party, including myself, we live larger than our pockets. Ga re supi gone gore ga gona madi. Ga re supi gone gore hey la Botswana ga ana madi. Re bone le Batswana ba dumela. Nna ibile ne ke dumela gore gona ana. Things like sitting allowance nga bo dinama di emisitse for 12 months. Hela ka mmema da ona bua. So that re supetse Batswana re ha rena madi.
Yeah. I mean, I knew time was going to run out, and I want to actually get you to close off just speaking to something that you really, your namesake. I feel like the timing was just something else. I don't know if I want to say poetic justice but we have seen that part of the reason why, and I want to say that clearly there was, according to what you put on your timelines, clearly this is what it looks like. I want to know what you think can be done, and this is working with the assumption that everything you put out there regarding the former Assistant Minister of Health and where all the money that should be in our hospital and in our health systems went, what do you think can be done, especially in this instance where unfortunately he's no longer here?
What do I think can be done is what is being done now. What is being done now to address that is that we have an ongoing forensic audit, whereby any Motswana who believes that something has been done wrong, or report that thing. Then now, which I did, DCEC Lone, it has the mandate to investigate. The Minister of Health yesterday actually Stephen on his timeline he's going to look into the outsourcing. Even though I admire his confidence, I admire his admission, but I think time is the essence. We need to see action than him a promise. Because Batswana ba baletswe ra bona le rona dipatala tsa rona di collapsed and le rona Batswana ga re ipaballe so that risk ra di overwhelm. What needs also to have been done also at the forensic audit, I feel like it has done injustice to many Batswana.
Why?
Gampieno ana ga to go auditwa di 30 institutions. Do you know them? Nobody knows them.
Yeah.
It's very important that at the beginning it was important to list them or reinvestigate these organizations. If you have anything against them, bring that proof, report them now. Right now, some 4 or 5 months later, to gonna remember to batis busupi jo go bang go se bosenyegile ya kampe go ne re tlhalosa gore former minister ibilo se tsa thoka hetsa igapetse botshelo ka mabaka a go hela ha ile gore wa botsisa we la re ka tsa dithuto, but the justice that kana justice delayed is justice denied. So hani le go simologa hela be re dira di hotline, be re dira these things, re bo re dira gape re di list so that the information that we receive is relevant. Right now the go rampe go motho go notisa institution that is not under investigation or an issue that does not fall under the scope of forensic audit. Some scope they should have been done ka DCEC. Botswana Police Service nka bo e bereka nka bo re dirile gore you know what, a re tsa puso na kana gore hela ga ke gongwe ga ke tautona kana ke ga go thata le tsebe ya ga tautona gongwe iponara e mosimanyano wa me o wa balabala thata nka bona ke setile up actually within this police within DCC nka bo ke setile what you call a team mo teng gore task force within every BPS DCEC the military intelligence DIS nka bo ke setile gore be di simolla investigator di khant le tse di reportilo mo go tsone to move forward for prosecution assets tsa teng di tsewa batho ba isi ba di lathe batho ba isi ba di senye ba di dispose nka bo re setile that thing it would have meant that forensic audit right now it will go over with unnecessary things and Botswana or ha setse report ya go tswa Botswana they are going to be disappointed you know why because things that they believe that the audit is focused on is not that thing that thing that they are focused with require gore parlamente ntshe molao parlamente re audita masimo le ditshatsa go tsogela mo go ditshene go a go mo lepolle kwa le ha tshile le othera audita re itse gore mang o ownang gampieno ana one of the chairman wa one wa bo mo go ditshene ka kwa ga to feitse one count ya corruption ya land ga to tsere ya motho mme ke motho o dumela gore he should be facing over 20 charges accounts tse leng gore o re dumela gore o ka tswa iphilela ha sele seng la gagwe kana re rekisela ha sele seng la gagwe so some of those injustices dine bogolo go kila bo gona le bo gata khabo commission go kila ga bo gona di commission tse dintsi some of those things required such of course tautona na re ga ba tone ka gore e hela e leader to en ya no ke hetsa ka yona forensic audit the unfortunate part ga ta hediwa report ya tswa isho kana ke go cabinet ngana ke go tautona e be nna bone ba reng nya mona le ka supetsa Botswana mona le ska supetsa Botswana that's the injustice that is going to happen we are not going to see the true nature of looting of course na tautona ta tsara kana bongwana ke gona dio dingwe tse neng gore ga la tshwana go di itse o le Setlhomo ka gore di toga di tsola le ha tshela rona le dintse gona le the state secrets that I'm not supposed to know which is very fine but the looting that has occurred in Botswana it needs to be put up there re ba bone e le gore these men are held accountable these men are prosecuted these men and women se le gore ba se tsere se tsewe se tsengwe mo le hatseng la se la rona le tswelele Botswana kana thabatho nka bone le Dubai Botswana was failed by mismanagement of funds but go ikhumisa ga bangwe go eletsa go huma gongwe le go ka gore mo Botswana motho dumela gore a tsewe ya le go godimo ke gore ba kgwetsa kana nna mo diong tse leng gore ha di berekela gore dio tse leng gore tsa bo godu le bo tetipe so re ne tota ne re dumela gore tautona boko nka bo dio tse dingwe tsena a sala di simolotse ka bogale jone re mothopa you know na I've been with him since I think 2012 as in believing in his idea
since you saw him give that speech
I said this is the man to lead me o nanga re nna ke mofokodi wa lona a me wounded healer nna ga se wa me nna wa me ke eleng gore go rare wa senya ya go thothomisa ya go tsenya ka toronko gore buse dio tse wa me ke eleng gore ona le tshakgalo bogalako not the conservative one wa me ke eleng gore o dira dilo the DGB that I knew and that I still have hope gore e ka re o ka di dira dio tse ka gore ga di dira ene ha o ka tswelela go ntsana na my view ke gore bontsi ba Botswana ba tetse tshakgalo of course many of them are hiding it because Botswana ka masisina ba supi ha ba mo bate ne ba itumela go tala gore ngo ta Botswana ke batho ba di fake smile ga banke ba bolela motho gore you know what Botswana ne re solo hetsi yana le yana e ka go hana ga le dirisene because many Botswana are hurt because this very same oppressive system that oppressed them before the top ke ntse ke yone mayudisi ba ne ba re dio di banka ngwe ba ba benefit le Botswana ba bangwe banza ba benefit go ntse go benefita batho ba le bangwe hela gore the economy is even going down so the frustration ya Botswana ga ya e thokana le gore you know we need to radicalize the system re baakanya otherwise I don't see UDC winner di top ka 2029 I don't see UDC retainer Gaborone constituency majority of them they are going to lose it because they failed to deliver they failed to do what they promised Botswana and go ta bo go tusa botho because our grandparents, our parents, they fought for over 55 years to change that government. We don't expect the UDC to lead for 5 years. But the higher palage, about 30 to 40 years. Because now I fear about the government that was disposed. So it will rule this country until Jesus come. And oppressive. The government they are ha ka re ke tswa be ke sala morago ke DIS puso eneng hetane re motho a hetsa go bua o sala DIS morago BRS mo sala morago. There was no freedom of speech. There was freedom of speech, but there was no freedom after speech. That was the unfortunate. People were being blackballed, blackmailed, and everything. So one of the things that I appreciate about him, it's freedom of speech. But freedom of speech without an action, without people having the resources, e hela nna modumo hela. So ne re eletsa tota gore o ka re modimo le ena o ka mo utela bothoko a kgona go bona gore batho ba mo tsenyeditse hanaeng ga ba mo tsenyetsa gore ene another Mandela failed the people of South Africa because he failed to give them land. Botswana ma South African ba lola land gore ka ska rabe mo so we thorele bantsi ne ba o banetse democracy without land, democracy without power, without resources, without wealth is nothing. That is why South Africa is filled with inequality and crime entsinzi. Botswana hampe ka October ba tsere gore ba tshentshile domokoraga mme ga ba tsaya meamuso ya bone redistribution of wealth, redistribution of land, redistribution of power e leng gore Motswana ga ra ba fila gore ya go ke tswang teng yanong ke gone go Botswana wa malatsi a bangwe ba leng gore bo rampetšhane ba tautono wa pele mona ba bua ke bone ba le ba hantse ba controla economy, the resources ya Botswana ke bone ba leng gore ba hantse ba oppressa gampe go no bua ka vegetable ban khantela vegetable ban batho ba ba supplying these chain stores ga se Batswana. These chain stores, they went behind ba itira difomo tsa bone ba reka mo go bona ha o le Motswana ota o re nya ha re go monna ke 5 pula gore wa a re ka kira go reka 1 pula ha ba sna go reka 1 pula ba gore sa 20 pula.
Own price regulation.
The price regulations bone they regulate your prices, but nobody regulate the price that they sell for. To gona bo storage what as if they store your tomatoes only. They don't store your tomatoes, they don't sell your tomatoes only, they sell a large number of things. Go re shop ha isna ditamati ha se gore ya tswala e tswala e rana. Why are they emile di fridge so ja timiwa? Why are they saying that now they have these expenses that come with your tomato when they already have that expenses? It's that well taken care of.
I want to engage you on this conversation at another point. I think let's close off speaking natives against corruption, and also you did say that your activism career is coming to an end, I think in 2 minutes, because I know it's way past.
Yes, natives against corruption, it's the idea. So you're going
to quit activism? You're serious about
now
that?
I'm on my way out. I have overstayed. Ile ga ka batho gongwe go hella ke harologana le go romenta thata mo go romenta to gare mothaka o ya no ka re tsenya le suga ka gore nna hanga tswela ke ema ke go gana la bohelo ke go hella ke bata go emela bo parlamente la bohelo wa uto ga go tanong o emetse Gaborone Central le be ke itsanna ka 2019 ka gore I believe in myself. If I'm to contest for the elections,
would you do it?
I would win.
Would you do it?
If things don't work around the way I expect them, I would wake up and say, "I am at the top." And Botswana ba go top. Ke a go win. Ke a go win hela mo ilong gore batho ba go tshoga. And ga ke batse seo ka gore kantse ke dumela mo bogoging jwana go eno gore ke jone se ntse ba nketella pele nna ke tswelle ke ba support. So ke dumela gore along the way if I continue with my activism, something hasn't seng ke tsama activism. Ke a go hela ke gore ke tsubarile mo eleng gore ke a go hella mongwe le mongwe a dumela gore puso ga re ntshiwe mo pusong hela ka ne ke tsubira kana kwa rado mo gore ga le bone bangwe ba se ba ntse ke se ba dumang ke ba ditseto because ne ke tsubira banana ke bala ke batho bana ga ba tshwanna gore etela pele ba tshwana ba feitse because Motswana ha nna mo bolella nnete la ba go dumela nnete ate le ha ile maka. So ga ke bate that joy ke feel or you know what, I fought so long to change the regime that was then to throw it out with other Botswana. So ke dumela gona gore ya me chaile gare ke boele morago pele ga yanong ke hella ke senya.
What are you going to venture into? What's going to be next for you?
Probably family, girls, other good stuff, business and other things that I missed out.
This is you declaring your intentions for girls?
Yeah, I'm still young. I should enjoy my life. I should, I'm young. I'm not conservative. I'm liberal.
Yeah.
Ke dumela gore gare ke tshela botshelo ya ka monana ke ithwetse ke roile man thata ba Botswana la Botswana mo maheteng mme ke le ngwana gare le nna ke nje go ga re bilo ke lo no le bilo sta tsama ka le nao hale like be free and live for the moment. I don't know how long I would live for, but I wanna die having enjoyed myself, having made mistakes
so
as
you
well.
Enjoyed
right
yourself?
Now, because every time I'm there, I'm like Botswana ba solohetse go le gontsi mo go nna yone mo kgathontsheng ke o lwela ha e re ke ne ke ba lwela ha e ka re ka mosobo go tekana mme ke o le ke le takala hale it doesn't look well for their brand as well. So gore ke ntse ke ithwesitse mathata ale to conform to them. So now ke feel gore when I'm not an activist I can do as I wish to nka nna o togote hela ke lo raletse o ganne go ema mpodisi ba mo emisa ke eng because I no longer have much to lose or much to stand for.
You don't respect the rule of law.
I believe that the rule of law has to be challenged. Molao dirilwe ke batho gore o baka nngwe o gotha go thiwe molao ha o ka o togela o ntsehela kore le Bible ya re gate the violence shall take by the kingdom of God suffers violence and the violent shall take it by force gore le one molao thokana le gore o gotha go thiwe o changewe ka gore na bile ke la ntha ke bona mo Botswana mpe go ha ke tabogile kolo ya shajiwa me nna ga ke shajiwe nna go tswang teng you lose the points re charge wena so that you can't drive kana ya ndi points tsa gore nne wena yo nang responsible is ka nna kolo ga se motho so ke dumela gone gore molao wa Botswana ga re tota nna hane le nna o go bonga thiwa o tse o latho wa mamosadinyana ka re ke molao wa mosadinyana wa bogologolo a ntse ru
You know what, I need you to stop and I need you to vote for us to bring Setlhomo back. I really think we need a part 2. I'm just going to get him to give his contact details because I'm just realizing there's so much we haven't touched on. There's the issue of birds. I want to speak more about natives against corruption. So let's have a little vote going on to bring him back. Setlhomo, where do we find you on social media?
You don't need to find me. I find you wherever you are. My content would always reach you. Or if it doesn't reach you, it will reach your family, your kids, your colleagues, everyone. It would always reach. I don't need to market myself. I would find you wherever you are, or my content would find you wherever you are. And my voice would always reach out to you. The voice of the youth would always reach out to you. I'm always for the youth. I'm always for a better country. I might not be correct all the time, but I'm seeking to correct that which is wrong. I'm seeking for a better Botswana. Iseng Botswana wa me. Nna ga ke na ngwana, ga ke na se leng gore I'm here to protect. But ke tsela gore wena bana ba gago bo kgaitsadi o bana ba gago they can benefit from what I'm advocating for or what lo wena so se dirang. So my last word is that wherever go berekang teng, please boiha go senyetsa lehatshe, boiha tshenyetso setšhaba, boiha go ikhumisa, se boihe modimo hela, modimo ga o mmone mme o bona batho ba ba tshelang le wena ba o ke bone le ntwe la modimo. We have many people Botswana who fear an unseen God, but don't fear the men who are marginalized, the men who are oppressed. Batho ba ba tshelang nabo modimo le badimo ba gago ke bone batho ba Tswana ba o tshelang nabo ba ileng gore ba tshela mo lehumeng mo kgatakong. Serve the people, serve this country, transform it. Our country deserve better. So many talent Botswana ba ile ko bo America ko bo Europe because ba tshabile tala lehuma khontsho ya bo mmele bana ba tshabile unemployment e ntsi mo Botswana. We can do better. We can transform this country so that it can be something. Botswana population I think it's less than 2 million pula less than 2 million e leng gore we can transform it into something se leng gore mahatse ba ka reeletsa mo Botswana ba reeletsa ha ba bhala ka rona mme ha ba tla go tshelana ba bona lehuma le leng gore le wena utwa bothoko ka gore banana ba Botswana ga ba amogele ba bangwe ba na bo 20 years ba sa ba bereke ha o ta gampe kwa go DPSM gore ga te go hirwa yang go hirwa ka gore mang ke tsana ga mang ke lisika la ga mang ga gona a proper record go tenya ke first come first serve kana we look at this and that gore go a freestyle wa hela such that the system served to advantage others and nna ne ke re banana ba tswelle ba bue Batswana ba tswelle ba gotha gore mento kwa bone tautona wa rona nna tlhalosa gore ene o bata criticism o rata gore a ska galediwa mo o bata gore a gotha go thwe ba mmotse dipotso a ba arabe. So let's use that opportunity to advocate for change, advocate for better things and better our country because this is our only country.
Setlhomo Raymond Tshwanelang, I think we need a part 2. This is Moving Humanity Forward podcast. We'll see you next time.